You know, there is a moment every single one of us reaches in our life that almost feels like a quiet breaking point, a point where you suddenly realize you've been giving pieces of yourself away without even noticing. You answer every call. You respond to every message. You bend, you stretch, you explain, you fix, you save, you chase, you apologize, even when your soul is screaming for rest. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to admit. The more available you are to everyone, the more invisible you become to yourself. That's why today, we're counting down the 7 psychological shifts that happen the moment you stop being so available. 7 hidden truths that Carl Jung hinted at about individuation, boundaries, and reclaiming your inner authority that most people never hear until they've already burned themselves out. And when we get to number 1, everything you think you know about your own power, your own worth, and your own identity will change in a way you can't unsee. So let's begin. Because the world has trained you to believe that being endlessly available makes you a good person. But it doesn't. It makes you exhausted, resentful, and disconnected from who you truly are. What actually makes you powerful is what happens when you finally stop. This is number 7. Number 7 is that your nervous system finally learns what safety feels like. Most people don't realize this, but constantly being available isn't generosity, it's hypervigilance. It's your mind stuck in a low-grade survival mode, scanning for danger behind every request, terrified that saying no might cost you love, approval, or belonging. You know that feeling, right? The tiny spike of anxiety when you see a notification pop up, or the guilt you feel for not replying fast enough. That's not courtesy. That's conditioning. At some point, someone taught you that your worth was tied to how quickly you served others. Maybe you grew up in a home where you had to be the emotional caretaker. Maybe you had a parent whose approval came only when you performed. Maybe you learned that peace comes from keeping everyone else happy. So your body learned to stay alert. But the moment you stop being so available, something extraordinary happens. Your nervous system finally realizes the world doesn't collapse when you take a breath. Silence stops feeling dangerous. Rest stops feeling like failure. And for the first time in years, you feel a kind of inner stillness that most people mistake for boredom but is actually peace. And this leads you directly into number 6. And number 6 is where the real emotional shock happens. Number 6 is that people's true intentions suddenly become painfully clear. When you're always available, everyone looks kind, appreciative, interested. But the moment you create even the smallest boundary, when you don't reply immediately, when you prioritize your needs, when you stop being the emotional dumping ground, people reveal who they truly are. Some people will adjust, respect you, and even love you more. But others will react as if your existence was only meaningful when it served them. This is one of the hardest psychological truths to accept. Your availability didn't just make people comfortable, it protected their illusion of entitlement. Here's a story I hear constantly. Someone decides to take a weekend for themselves, and suddenly, a friend says, "You've changed," or a partner says, "Why are you being distant?" Or a coworker accuses them of being unreliable, even though they've been the most reliable person in the room for years. But here's the liberating twist. Their reaction isn't about you. It's about losing access to the version of you that they benefited from. This clarity hurts, but it also frees you, and it takes you to number 5, which is where things start to get beautifully powerful. Before we go deeper, let me ask you something, because I genuinely want to hear you. Which of these patterns is holding you back the most right now? Tell me the number in the comments. I'm here, and I'm reading your story. Now let's move to number 5, because this one can change your entire identity. Number 5 is that your self-worth finally separates from your usefulness. Carl Jung said that so much of human suffering comes from confusing who we are with the roles we play. And that is exactly what happens when you rate always available. You collapse your identity into your function. You stop being a person and you become a role. The helper, the fixer, the listener, the dependable one, the one who never needs anything, the one who can always handle it. But here's the psychological trap. When people only value a version of you that exists for them, you forget how to exist for yourself. When you stop being so available, you force the psyche to detach worth from service. You rediscover your preferences, your desires, your boundaries, your voice. And here's the remarkable part. You realize that the world didn't value you because of who you were, they valued you because of what you provided. That realization isn't meant to make you bitter. It's meant to make you sovereign. Because once your worth becomes internal, every relationship in your life shifts. You stop chasing. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for the space your needs take up. And this awakening leads directly to number 4, the point where emotional intelligence begins to flourish in a profound way. Number 4 is that you begin to see the difference between love and attachment, often for the first time. One of Jung's deepest teachings was that people don't relate to each other. They relate to their own unconscious images projected onto another person. And when you're constantly available, people don't see you, they see the version of you they've created in their mind. Their comfort, their security blanket, their emotional safety net. So when you step back even a little, they panic. Not because they're losing you, but because they're losing their projection. This is where emotional clarity emerges. You begin to see which connections are based on genuine care, and which ones are built on dependency. Real love respects space. Real love respects individuality. Real love respects autonomy. Attachment, on the other hand, collapses without control. When you stop being so available, the relationships built on real love deepen. They grow. They become more honest, more mutual, more human. But the relationships built on attachment, they crumble, and they should. Because losing what's unhealthy is the first step to becoming whole. And now, we enter the top 3. This is where the most powerful transformations happen. Number 3 is that you finally meet the version of yourself that has been buried under everyone else's needs. This might sound dramatic, but it's one of the most accurate psychological truths about self-mastery. Constant availability erases your identity. When you're always responding, always adapting, always shaping yourself around others, you never hear your own internal voice. You never hear what you truly think, want, or feel. But when you stop being so available, your inner world becomes audible again. You start noticing your genuine likes and dislikes. You feel the difference between obligation and desire. You reconnect with the subtle signals your body has been whispering for years. For some people, this awakening hits like a shock. They suddenly realize they've been living a life chosen for them, not by them. The job was chosen for stability. The friendships were chosen out of familiarity. The habits were chosen for survival, but not for authenticity, not for joy, not for freedom. And when you finally hear your real self, you can't go back. You can't unsee your potential. You can't unknow your truth. It's terrifying and exhilarating. And the internal clarity that comes from this realization leads you straight into number 2, where the world starts responding to you differently. Number 2 is that your value skyrockets because scarcity awakens respect. Now, let me be clear. Your worth doesn't increase. Your worth was always infinite. But the perception of your worth increases the moment you stop giving away your energy freely. There's a psychological principle called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that makes people obsess over slot machines or unpredictable rewards. When something becomes less predictable, less constant, less available, the brain suddenly pays more attention to it. Your presence becomes more meaningful. Your words hit harder. Your boundaries inspire seriousness. Your time becomes precious. Your energy becomes valuable. People start noticing the difference between your yes and your no. They listen more carefully. They treat you with more intention. They realize that access to you is something they must earn. And the irony is almost poetic. The less you give without discrimination, the more people appreciate what you offer. You shift from being an option to being a privilege, from being background noise to being a signal. This is the beginning of self-respect radiating outward, and it brings us to number 1, the most difficult, most liberating, most identity-shifting psychological truth of all, the one that Jung believed was the cornerstone of individuation, the moment everything changes. Number one is that you discover the rare, terrifying, beautiful truth that you were never meant to be available to everyone. Because you're not here to belong to the world. You're here to belong to yourself. This is the essence of becoming an individuated human being. The realization that your life is not a public utility. Your energy is not a resource to be mined. Your presence is not a right. It is a privilege. And the moment you stop being constantly available, you break the unconscious contract you've had with the world. The contract that says, I will make myself small so you feel comfortable. I will silence my needs so you won't leave. I will sacrifice my peace so you won't be upset. The contract is written in fear. But your soul was not designed to live in fear. Jung believed that every person is born with a blueprint for wholeness, a kind of inner map. That leads you back to your true self. And every time you abandon yourself to be available for others, you step further away from that map. But the moment you reclaim your time, your voice, your boundaries, your worth, you step back onto your own path. You realize something revolutionary. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone should have a seat at your table. Not everyone gets to walk beside you. And that doesn't make you cold. It makes you conscious. It makes you intentional. It makes you self-respecting. It makes you whole because you finally understand. Availability is not love. Obligation is not loyalty. Self-abandonment is not kindness. Your life expands the moment you stop shrinking yourself for others. So let me ask you, when was the moment you first realized you were disappearing into other people's expectations? And now that you see it, what will you reclaim first? And before you go, tell me in the comments, which number hit you the hardest? Which truth felt like it was written specifically for you? If this message reminded you that the blueprint for your freedom has always been inside you, share it with someone you love, someone who gives too much, someone who needs this reminder as much as you did. And if you want more messages like this, more truth, more clarity, more inner freedom, come back here. Because every day, I'll be right here, helping you build a life grounded in radical honesty, deep psychology, and unbreakable self-respect. You deserve nothing less.